What's going on, everybody? I'm back with another video. This video is going to be looking at the match between Atletico Madrid and Porto, and the match that saw Atletico Madrid advance in the UEFA Champions League in very dramatic fashion. And before we get into the video, check out both my books. They're online on Amazon, and there's links in the description below. Also, be sure to check out Keyframe. That's how I made this video, and there is also a link to that in the description below. And let's get right into the tactics behind the match. So Porto, they went with a 4-4-2 shape that often saw a few different variations when they were in possession. So here we have their first variation with their holding midfielder or their number 6 dropping between central defenders, creating a back 3. This then creates a 3-man midfield with inverted fullbacks or inverted wide midfielders and a deeper central striker with one player threatening in behind. So they accompany the single pivot now, or their lone holding midfielder that is then established by their deeper midfielder dropping between central defenders, and their makeshift midfield 3 is occupied by players through dynamic movement from the wide areas or from positions of height. For Atletico Madrid, they use their typical 5-3-2 out of possession, and what we see from their 5-3-2 is typically their most central midfielder, Koke, going a bit higher up the field now, and with their wide central midfielders then spanning across the full width. So their 3-man midfield would have the responsibility to oftentimes shift across the full width of the field, at least in their initial shifting process. So if the ball was circulated more than once into the wide position, they would then receive help from the fullback. But the initial shift was done by their midfield 3. We then have 2 forwards that were able to then better isolate possession into the wide area and try and recover the ball. Now we can clearly see the complete defensive structure from Atletico Madrid with their 5-man back line and their 3-man midfield and their 2 forwards. So one of the things Atletico do better than anyone else is maintain this high level of compactness in these dangerous areas. And with their midfielders shifting and Koke playing a little bit higher, it increases the space between the lines, but having 3 central defenders allows their defense to be more aggressive in jumping and pressuring between the lines. It also creates this situation with the wide central midfielders pressing the ball and pressing the player occupying single width, who is now the wide midfielder, because of their inverted fullback from Porto. But by having this back 4 shape with the single width situationally provided by the wide midfielder, Atletico Madrid shift with their midfielders to then better use their cover shadow and take away any diagonal passing options into these advanced areas. So by having this amount of control and by having this many players around the ball, it gives Atletico a good numerical advantage to then try and win the ball and potentially offensive transition into a dangerous area. We have our 4-man midfield with then our 2 holding midfielders staying in their defensive midfield line in line with the players using full width. Then we have our 2 forwards pinning the defenders and trying to create space for these interior midfielders, occupying the half space between the lines and looking to then threaten Atletico Madrid in more dangerous areas. Now we can look at a tendency from Porto to use dual width with now their fullback playing in a wider role, and now their wide midfielder accompanying the fullbacks using dual width on either side. So from here we then have a single pivot and a staggering of their 2 central midfielders, allowing them to then maintain access in higher areas, and with their 2 forwards it gives them plenty of potential to occupy the advanced areas between the lines. And what it did, it gave Porto better versatility in the wide area and allowed Porto to attract higher amounts of Atletico Madrid pressure to one side and vacate the weak side to potentially progress the attack. Now Atletico Madrid in possession have a very dominant way of playing in the sense that they don't use possession as much as a tool to progress the attack as they do try and progress as fast as possible in a very direct way. So in this situation they have their back 5, a 3-man midfield with 2 advanced 8s and a clear holding midfielder. So against the 4-4-2 from Porto, in this situation it looks more like a 4-1-4-1, but we will see very soon it was an out-and-out 4-4-2 with very aggressive attacking players to then press the ball and not allow clean service for Atletico into more advanced areas. But this very dominant shape creates a potentially effective second ball shape with the wingback joining the midfielders to then create an arc around where the ball will land into one of the two forwards. So with one forward running in behind and one player as the target, we then have a very clear structure around where the ball will land to then create a numerical advantage and control the volatility that comes with playing direct. So here we have our back five moving into the wider area, our midfield three playing quite narrow through the central three corridors, and our two forwards staggering themselves to try and affect the back four of Porto. So by here we have clear passing options to then go deeper into the front line of Atletico Madrid. We have the four-man midfielders from Porto applying pressure to the ball, trying to isolate play, but this pressure would often be bypassed, and then the space would then be accessed to try and get the second ball from these players around where the ball will land. So this amount of Atletico Madrid pressure in advanced positions when the ball was played direct required the defense to be very disciplined and be very good in second ball situations and in these moments of volatility. So Atletico Madrid ended up winning the match after taking advantage of Porto getting red cards and by maintaining control when Atletico Madrid went down to 10 men. So it was a very crazy game in the end that saw Atletico Madrid win the match 3-1. Hope you guys liked the video, and I'll see you in the next one.